you still want to keep the core of it and understanding of why we're doing it. I think that's where you can see some of those problems and highlighted there, where people run off too quick, they oversimplify, and then they miss something, and they don't understand the implication of the decision that they made for it. So I think it's definitely a trade-off between progressing and advancing in the right direction, but not where it's then going to set you back.
This series of episodes was recorded live at Digital Construction Week 2025 at the Excel in London. I got the privilege of interviewing some amazing people that are shaping the future of the built environment through the technology that organizations are developing and delivering now and for the future. Although this podcast was worth the entry fee alone, let's admit it, now is the time to register your interest for next year's Digital Construction Week 2026. But if, like me, you can't wait until next year, check out Digital Construction North on the 19th of November. The links to both events, as always, are in the show notes. But just before we go live with this week's episode, here's a brief intro to the topic we cover and today's guest. The construction industry stands at a critical crossroads. With mounting pressure to deliver projects faster, safer, and more sustainable, the role of technology is no longer a matter of future potential. It's a present-day necessity. From automation and data-driven design to machine control and connected workflows, digital innovation challenges long-standing assumptions about what's possible on and off the job site. And while AI, BIM, and other innovations continue to grow in popularity across the industry, many organizations still struggle with the lack of digital skills and perceived high implementation cost, which usually come due to tech interoperability issues. It's a triple whammy. So, for transformation on an industry scale to become a reality, we have to answer some difficult questions. How do we balance the speed of innovation with the resilience to develop the skills needed to benefit from this innovation? And can we meaningfully reduce inefficiencies without increasing complexity? How are the digital and physical worlds converging in construction? And what does it take to lead the charge through that shift with clarity, purpose, and impact? It's time to meet somebody who is doing just that. Stuart Campbell is the Senior Manager for Trimble in the UK and Ireland. He's responsible for managing the team that promotes the Trimble AECO software within some of the largest main contractors, house builders, specialist subcontractors, and engineering consultancies. And in his spare time, Stuart is studying for an MBA at Alliance Manchester Business School. He's a busy man. Stuart, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, great to be on.
For the listeners, can you just explain very briefly who you are and what you're doing at Digital Construction Week?
Yeah, certainly. So my name's Stuart Campbell. So I work for a construction technology company called Trimble. I work within our enterprise sales team. So I head up that team for the entire UK. All of our kind of customers are very large contractors, engineering consultancies, specialist subcontractors. I've been with the business now for nearly 11 years.
Right.
Yeah, I was undergrad engineering and what I'd only class as a failed engineer in many regards. But it's been a great journey since I've been there, a variety of different roles and really been allowed to grow as a person. And yeah, working somewhere like Trimble, with it being technology, you're right on the cutting edge, a lot of the tech for it. And yeah, it's a great place to work and really exciting.
Fantastic. So 11 years, I'd like to say it's seen a lot of things, but seen a lot of change.
Yes, an awful lot of change. And a lot just in the way of how we do things and stuff. And even as a business, how we've changed internally in a lot of our process. You know, back in the day, we would, kind of drive to go and visit people.
Imagine
that. Yeah. Which seems a very alien concept now. The fact that you can cram in 8 or 9 different Teams calls in a day and stuff, where you didn't do 2. So that's been like, major changes that we've witnessed. I feel the rate of change is just accelerating every single year. There's almost 4 or 5 years worth of change, what we had from maybe 2014 through to 2019 and what we now see from 2023 to 2025.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been on that journey, like you say. And I want to start with the speed of technology and the speed of change. And technology, there is no doubt it's changing things for the good. Yes, there are some bad elements, but in general, changing things for the good. Yeah. It seems to come back to this every single chat that I have, but construction's slower than most industries to uptake on the technology. But I personally think that's getting better. Are we overestimating the pace of innovation and underestimating the depth of skills we need to benefit from that tech, though?
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
Very simple. No, it's a great point. I think there's a lot of optimism around technology, and I think it's great. And you do need optimism to kind of, really drive a vision forward of what can be achieved. But I do like more people that in their optimism also kind of ground it in a reality of where things are today. And the best kind of thinkers and people on the sort of part, the people that can then plan a route to say, well, what are people doing today? And then where do we need to get to tomorrow for it? So I think, there's always a bit of hype, a bit of overestimation. And you kind of see this through that classic Gartner hype cycle on every kind of tech introduction. Shoots up, and then I can't remember, it's the valley of reality or something like that kicks in, and then it kind of levels out into a point where it is. And I think we do see this, particularly now with AI as an example. But I think on the skills front, that's a massive one for me, and something I'm personally quite passionate about. But also as a business, is that you need to really look at people's skill sets today and think, well, how am I going to upskill that person to where they need to get to in the future? I've witnessed some great examples. I've just done a presentation on this. Was a great one with this Langer Walk at their Explore manufacturing site in Steedley in Derbyshire. They have the guys on the floor will use, they would build the rebar cages for ground beams. And they always built it traditionally. They would generate a beautiful 3D model up in the design office. And then they would put the 2D drawing, print it off and take it down to guys at site. That's how they want to do it. So they started trying to give them the 3D kind of technical model onto site using Trim Connect. But the guys weren't taking it up because it was too different from what they were used to, of being able to look at a drawing and go, well, I can see the dimensions that I need. I can see the spacings for the bars. I can see the bar sizes. I can't navigate around the 3D model. I don't know where it is. So it was a great innovation they did, was using a QR code on the drawing.
Okay. Yeah.
And they just put it on there. And over time, you can scan the QR code and you've still got your 2D drawing, but it would give you the 3D model on the computer screen that they put in there for them. And they noticed that slow behavioral change where people just gave them a nice, easy on-ramp to start doing it. And then they found the rebar fixers were then coming up, then speaking to the guys up in the drawing office and going, can you just show me that on the model? I want to ask a question on there. So again, it's just those little bits of like, you're not trying to jump ahead. You're not trying to get someone to run who is only crawling maybe and can't walk yet. So that's a great example of what we've seen of how you can start to bridge that skills gap. But I think in general in the industry, well, actually across everything, people are going to need to be armed with the skills in the future.
For sure.
And I'm not really convinced that we are fully doing that.
I think that's a really good way of looking at how to implement technology in that QR code element. It wasn't saying, no, you're going to use this now. It's there if you want it. We think it's the best solution, but if you want to use it, it's there, and allowing them to explore it and allowing them to get used to it.
Exactly. It's a people first philosophy, which is what I really liked with it, is going, we really value our people. We're not going to treat them like children and dictate to them what they need to use. We're going to help to like understand how they like to work and fit around those constraints of how they like to work, but give them a good way in which they can experience it for themselves and then go, actually, this is really good. And they become then the greatest advocates of it. And again, I really, we were quite gobsmacked doing this factory thing. It's even ways that we haven't thought about using our technology and people were putting it into practice, which is great to see.
So this is quite a difficult question to answer, really. But from your own skill set, then over the 11 years, have you seen that change and develop over time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, my skills have developed in many, many ways. I'd say as well, Trimble's given me a lot of confidence to go out and, really think about my own education skill sets. So I'm partway through doing an MBA at the moment. And again, that has been a natural progression through wanting to do more learning and upskilling. And again, a fantastic experience of seeing exposure to course mates who are coming from completely different industries with different ways of working, but trying to solve some very similar problems, particularly around digitalization. I'd say for me, I'm a massive AI advocate, and just I do like technology in general. I think there's a bit of that engineering background kind of comes into it that I really like sinking my teeth into a new tool and figuring out how something works. But it's also what I kind of observe as well as a slight worry from a societal aspect with it. And we do see it in Trimble as well, as that you have a couple of individuals, a couple of really good lighthouse individuals that really maximize the productivity, and their productivity goes up by 100, 200, 300%. And yet there's other people that don't really pick it up in quite the same way, and theirs doesn't quite increase the same thing. But you get this averaging effect that on paper, when you look at everyone, it looks like everyone's done really well. But actually, there's a real disparity between some people that are only getting better and really shooting off, and some people that still need more kind of upskilling and more kind of focused time to actually get more out of them. And conversely, you don't need to do a lot more on more really good people already, because they'll probably figure it out themselves. They're bracing off and they're fine. You'd actually, as an organization as a whole, get more benefit out of spending a bit more time with more of the people that are there, trying to get more gains out of them.
Yeah, so really that individualistic approach and understanding your people, like you were saying, it's that human element.
Exactly. People learn in very different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people are very comfortable with numbers. Other people are better with written words. There's so many different ways in which people learn that you can't just hit it with a one-size-fits-all approach and expect everyone to be able to.
Absolutely, which leads me really nicely on to focusing on Trimble itself, and such a large organization within the construction world. How much responsibility do you feel Trimble has, or any enterprise organization has, towards the industry in general, to make sure that it is progressing and developing and getting better over time, compared to simply running a profitable company, which is, companies, that's what they're there to do?
Yeah. It's a great one of balancing various different stakeholders across the organization. So customers are a key stakeholder for any large enterprise, but also kind of shareholders are a key kind of stakeholder in there. Wider society is a key stakeholder. Employees are a stakeholder. Management's a stakeholder. There are lots of different parties that are in there that have all got a vested interest in you succeeding and doing what you can do to succeed. I think as an enterprise, we take our obligations really seriously as Trimble. A good example is actually some of our structural and civil calculation software is used by the vast majority of the industries. Things like Technoted, Technostructural Designer, they're all code-based in terms of their design. They get set by various different standards agencies. This is kind of Eurocode design standards. We are actually on the steering committee for that, because we have an obligation to deliver the correct standards and make sure that we shape the standards so they're easy for engineers to interpret and aren't misinterpreted. Because the consequences are potentially that, people aren't code compliant, and that jeopardizes the structure, integrity, and safety of the building. These are things we employ people as our chief engineer just to look at that. Certainly steering committees that can take seriously. We do an awful lot of engagement with the likes of the ICE, I/D, SIBC, and other kind of industry bodies and stuff like that to do it. And so, for us, we want to support and enable the industry kind of as we go.
It seems like you're doing that from what you've just said there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really funny. It's like, it's not in our interest to allow the industry to fail or that our customers fail. Like, our customer success is our success. In the same way, how as a contractor, your success as the contractor is your client's success. At the end of the day, client wants to build a bill. You have to deliver that as the contractor. They're your customer. We are then the contractor is then our customer. And then there's obviously people in our value chain that we're their customer to help us deliver a lot of the technology that we use as well. So it's a very, very supportive system across the piece.
For sure. So with tech adoption, a lot of it is all about simplification, simplicity, efficiencies, and that kind of aspect. Making lives easier throughout the entire industry, which you're helping and supporting. But is there a risk of over digitizing, a potential of fragility in introducing too many complex systems too quickly?
Again, yes. It's definitely it's not per se a really discrete 0-1 kind of answer to it at all. There are always going to be kind of trade-offs for it. So I like to think of that sort of like time, profit, budget kind of thing for it, that trifecta kind of scenario or trilemma where you can kind of have two, but not maybe all three together for it. So when we're thinking about tech adoption, you still want to keep the core of it and understanding of why we're doing it. I think that's where you can see some of those problems and highlighted there where people run off too quick, they oversimplify, and then they miss something and they don't understand the implication of the decision that they made for it. So I think it's definitely a trade-off between progressing and advancing in the right direction, but not where it's then going to set you back. Too many steps for. It's definitely a thing we sometimes observe with our customers, and we have to kind of just pull back a little bit for it. A classic trade-off I find is collaboration security. The two kind of almost opposite ends of the spectrum. I want everyone to have access because I want to be able to collaborate on everything. But actually, if I release some sensitive data to everyone, then everyone's got it, then everyone's out there. So it's really kind of thinking about it. And security can sometimes hamper productivity because you can't get that there. So I think having really good people at the core of it who understand the nuances, understand the trade-offs, and then you can make an informed decision about how you do it. That's where we've seen some of the best tech adoption with our customers.
And I'm guessing it's working in collaboration with your clients to get that balance of security and
100%. From my side, I'm very fortunate that I get involved from the very, very early stages where people are talking about early stage on the project with our sales teams to saying that we want to introduce this process, and we have a whole heap of people at Trimble who will do all of our kind of technical proof of concepts. We have a professional service team help us set up. We have an ongoing support team, we have a product development team, we have a customer success team. These are all various people that we have to bring in at different points to help the customer ultimately achieve what they're trying to achieve for their projects. For us, that collaboration is really key. We really want to focus on hand-holding people through that and understanding what they've done.
Do you find that different people with different skill sets or that have different roles, is there a certain barometer in how comfortable they are with technology or how willing they are to embrace that technology from the different roles that they do, or just does it depend on the organization? Is it different every time?
It can vary from organization to organization. I still think there's a bit of a fundamental thing of like, it's going to sound a little bit reductive, but sometimes you kind of pay for what you get. So if you pay someone to solely focus on new technology and what's out there, they are going to really focus on new technology and what's out there. If you're paying someone to really focus on one element of project delivery that they have to do and they're under time pressure to do it, as much as that individual might really want to look at technology, they're constrained by the role that they have to do in terms of what they're being employed to do and what they're being done. So it's not actually the individual that I look at and say, well, that person's a laggard or they're really good visually for it. We're trying to understand what are the constraints, the pressures around that particular person. Again, going back to that example you used beforehand, the rebar fixer's role is to just build the rebar cages and get them on there. That's what they get paid to do, and they've got to ensure that the quality is there and the dimensions right. Their role isn't to look at a 3D model or a 2D drawing at all. That's just something that's going to help enable them to it. But again, if you can really understand what that constraint that person's working to, you can then build around that and kind of deliver the technology to them. And then you find they are genuinely then receptive, excited about, because that's the role we're being paid to do. So for us, we always really want to understand, and we actually have at the start of any process where someone's looking at any of our kit, we'll have at least a 30-minute call on we just want to chat. We just want to find out who's working on what are they trying to achieve, because that then helps us in terms of how we approach that particular person.
You're not the first person to say something like that either, and it's no surprise really that it all starts with that research and that understanding and building on it as a marketer. It's like music to my ears, really. That's where you start.
I mean, if you don't know, then you don't know, do you? You don't know what's the best thing. A great one we say as an analogy: have you ever walked into a doctor's surgery and in the first 2 minutes they've gone, right, here's your prescription, off you go then. What doesn't happen, do they? Have a full consultation, they ask you what the problem is, and they diagnose it, off they go. That's a very similar approach that we want to take as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so looking towards the future then, how do we build, design tools, data, technology that's going to remain relevant for, say, the next 10, 20 years? Or is it that even possible?
Yeah, a very simple one is open file formats and open standards. It was the whole purpose behind the IFC file format as well in particular. Trimble as a company, we've been massive advocates of open BIP. We signed up as platinum partners on that for it, because we recognize that you need to future-proof stuff and can't have things saved today on a proprietary file format for a piece of software that might not exist in 10 or 20 years time. It was the whole point of having future-proofed kind of file formats and standards. So that's definitely one thing where we feel that if we do want to future-proof our design to get on there, that's where we're going to do it. Another aspect is probably around more and more we're seeing fewer and fewer people on the job site, and more machinery and robotics starting to come to play.
Right.
A big part of that is around site safety. Fewer people are on the site who don't need to be on the site, that there's less chance of being an accident. So we would expect to see a lot more around things like remote monitoring and things like that form, but being able to feed information in that a machine can understand, rather than what a human can understand, means we maybe need to start thinking about changing file formats and other things, and how you build technology to build it for a machine. Again, a good example of this is looking at manufacturing. A lot of the robotic arms machinery is on site. That comes from a 3D design software application that will just feed directly into a robotic arm. We see this bit within our technical customers in Trimble. We work at steel fabrication sites that they will then read in called NC files. They'll read that straight from the 3D model, give the 2D representation, the drill, and then go and cut the exact part that's on there. Again, that's designing core machines, so machines can do the job for. So I think these are going to be really key areas that a lot of software companies and technology companies in general are going to be looking at over the next 5 to 10 years. I think as well, it kind of addresses a lot of them. Unfortunately, what we talked about the skills gap. So one presentation I did, I think there's a stat I saw that said 40% of workforce potentially get retired by 2031. So not only are we not having people on the job site, there might not even be the job site. There's a lot of know-how and other things that we're going to use. And I do really feel when you look at the other options, as a necessity, we still need to build.
Yeah.
You haven't got enough skilled people to build. How are we going to plug that down? When you look in the past, where there's been necessities of human kind of race to do stuff, technology has been the thing that we rely on to try and help us achieve particular things.
And it's a completely different language as well that we're talking in terms of when you were saying that a machine's going to do things on site or in a factory or wherever, compared to instructing a human to do that. So it links back to what you're saying about the skills gap and different skills.
100%. Yeah. I think it's naive for anyone to suggest that, all jobs are going to be the same in how they are when new technology is introduced. A great one I sort of joked with my wife the other day was asking, have you ever heard of a pin setter or a knocker-upper or a lamplighter? These are all jobs that now no longer exist.
Yeah.
Because the pin setter was actually someone's job used to be to put bowling pins back up again once the bowling ball had knocked down.
Right.
So before the automated arms, that was generally the job they do. Or a knocker up would go around for alarm clocks and wake you up. Lamp lighter, turn on gasoline. So
That's the one I knew.
yeah, I think again, looking through the history of technology innovation, there is a transition of roles. But again, in saying that, okay, those jobs don't exist, but a BIM manager, a digital construction manager, the role I do today as well, that didn't exist either back when those jobs are there. So there is both kind of a diminishing of certain roles, but then a recreation of other roles. What we really have to look at doing, though, is the transferable skills out from those roles and making sure that that job kind of redistribution doesn't all happen at once in one particular place.
Yeah.
I think this is a real problem if you look at the mining industry, coal mining industry in the 80s, closing down the local pit that employs 40% of the workforce locally, and then not creating any more jobs. That is exceptionally destructive.
Yeah.
And not what any responsible or site should be looking at doing. Whereas I feel other technology transitions that we have, they can be far smoother. And then again, there's a role there to go back with education, start upskilling its particular people around them. And I do have hope for that as well. I see, like, I did my engineering degree 12, 13, 14 odd years ago or whatever it was, back in 09 when I started. And we did everything on Excel spreadsheets, still a bit of software. People coming out now with engineering degrees can do full kind of Python coding and stuff like that for it. And that I'm really pleased with the progression there, that they're teaching engineers computer literacy and how to code and stuff, and something that we never had back in the day. So again, I feel that, skills can keep up with the rate of change and pace of technology, and that can ensure that there's good employment across the board for everyone.
And some things have got to be the unknown as well, in a way.
Yeah.
If you look back 5 years, if we were doing this 5 years ago, I don't think we'd mention AI. And that's, completely changed things now.
We called it. So at Trimble, we've been doing AI.
Yeah. I know it's been here for a long time.
Yeah. So we used a lot of the, I remember doing a piece in 2019 on, there's a package called Rhino Grasshopper, in which you can do computational design coding that linked into some of our tech structural design software. I remember running I think it was called the genetic algorithm machine learning genetic algorithm that would optimize truss design. So like the trusses we see at the root, or we go through and based on the load, come up with the best suitable truss sizes that have the lowest tonnage of steel on them and stuff. But again, we didn't call it AI.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Call it machine learning or a different name or something. But again, it was very prescriptive. It took a long time to kind of set it up.
Yeah.
Build the model. It took quite a bit of knowledge to do it. And the engineers that were doing it, they were very few and far between. Again, they were real experts in their area. And it kind of nods to what I said beforehand. I was thinking the other day, where must they be now? If those engineers are doing that in 2019, where are they now with all the stuff that's there and they've leapt forward? But I think where it's become definitely more ubiquitous now is the ease at which people can now start to understand AI and start to interact with it. And I think there will be a bit of a shift from where we see now very like, I would call like reactive AI, like I prompt it and it performs a task, to more agentic AI where it's proactive, where rather than assigning it tasks, I will then set it an objective and it will make decisions on what tasks it needs to do to achieve that objective. And that's where you're kind of getting more into how potentially a human thinks in terms of, right, I'll set you this objective. So if your objective is to climb up that hill, you've got to make decisions, haven't you, about, okay, what walking boots do I wear? Which route do I take? What gear do I pack? What rest of the stuff? It's quite a different way from just put your boots.
Yeah. For sure. I always find it interesting talking about AI, and everyone's got their own opinions about it. And it's a
great way to secure venture capital funding.
I just keep mentioning it
from a marketing perspective. Put an AI on
for sure. Yeah, if you're not mentioning it, there's something wrong with you. I think.
Yeah,
no one really looks at you. But I know it's been around for a lot longer than in the mainstream, if you want to call it mainstream, and it's never been more accessible than it is now, you know, and in about 30 seconds we could be doing something whereas in the past we couldn't.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant to see. I'm really pleased to Trimble that we've delivered AI into some really specific functions.
Yeah.
We kind of didn't rush to do stuff in the early days. We kind of assessed what was going to be there in the market. So we've got a good example today with Trimble Business Center, where we put AI into, you can go around doing point cloud scan, and you used to have to manually sort of say that's a tree, paid and stuff like that. It'll now do a lot of that object classification for you, which gives a huge time saving, really productive. You know, within SketchUp, we've put tools in there where you can kind of visually take a photo of something and it'll do an image recognition to give you back that 3D model object from the library or the warehouse. So rather than you have to go and search, type and stuff like that for it. And there's a load more stuff we've got pretty on stream around that. But again, it's great to see that it's like genuine productivity kind of gains that we're putting in there, and stuff that genuinely answer an awful lot of value.
Yeah, and I think that'll just increase, and the rate of which we embrace it will increase as well.
There's so many tedious, mundane tasks that we all have to do, and particularly in construction as well. Just, you know, doing like form setups on projects, but having field view for QA and something that take ages to do and stuff. But again, something that can just be some of them help you just churn through a lot of that sort of stuff. And again, I think in construction, we need that productivity. We can't employ enough people fast enough to manually do these kind of things.
For sure.
People need to be more productive with how they use their time.
Yeah, it all seems to be coming into alignment, you know, with technology, the rate of change, the speed, knowing and understanding how we can utilize that technology, needing different skills in the industry, needing to plug those skill gaps. It all seems to be, I mean, it's all interlinked anyway, because it's the same industry, but it all seems to be linking up and aligning in a way. We just need to make it work.
Yeah, no, it is. It's really good. Like I did enjoy that ChatGPT moment, I guess, in terms of just a bit of that awareness and awakening to it. Because again, it kind of bubbled under the surface. Well, not bubbled under the surface. You can see it at various events and stuff like that for it. But like, I think that's what really brought it to the forefront of public consciousness. And, you know, it's flipping out as I was being about the AI stuff. I'm genuinely pleased to see it where people are putting it into their various different applications around the world today. And like, you know, if it's adding value, then fantastic. It's only going to save everyone a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Stuart, final question from me, and I'm asking everybody this.
What's your favourite color?
Yeah. Blue. No, red. Yellow. 10 years of Digital Construction Week, 10th anniversary.
Yeah, it's
10 years' time. Where are we going to be in terms of technology?
Still in the Excel.
Still in the Excel, still doing this.
Yeah, still miles out of it. Yeah. That's a really hard one. Conscious we're on camera as well, so don't hold me to it.
I'll be phoning you in 10 years' time.
One of those great clips where he said, remember we said that 10 years ago? You're wide off the mark of what's there. But no, I think I genuinely believe in 10 years' time, what would be really great at the moment is like the barriers to entry for crane technology and lowering all the time. Productivity is becoming there. There'll be way more options that people choose from in terms of their like tools they want to use in construction. And I think it's back to your point earlier, like competitive industry drives innovation. And it gives the best value for a customer base in that industry. Well, problem where companies stop caring about what customers think is because they don't need to. Like a Thames Water, it's a great example where it's a natural monopoly. So I think the competition would be great. I think more robotics as well. What's interesting today is like there's a smattering of robotics companies that are on site. I would expect to see more and more robotics kind of coming in at the same way how you went to a manufacturing expo. You'd see a lot of that robotics area. I think that's been the missing part of construction because of you're not bringing all the materials into work place to do a process. You take all the materials out to a completely different place, to a different process. And I think as the techs get smarter, we will see more and more robotics that are more adaptable to being set up in a different environment that can help with various tasks around the job site, which are hard to do. So that's maybe my slide.
Maybe
I'm willing to have a massive asterisk at the top there.
Of course. I mean, 10 years is a long time, and who knows what we'll be talking about. It'll be something that we didn't even know about. Right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I will happily put money that will still be in the Excel.
It's
probably the only major thing.
Absolutely. Okay, Stuart. Absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you
Yeah, thank
so much for your time. Really, really engaging and interesting. Thank you.
No, very good. Thank you very much. Cheers.